Hi, great people. Good evening. Welcome back to our show where we usually meet. We usually share the nuggets, wisdom in this journey of building one another. So, we want to welcome you to a second. This should be our first Thursday of the month of November, and we thank God for making us to see the 11th month of this year. It has not been easy, but we give all glory and honor and to God for giving us these opportunities. So we want to welcome you, want to tell you, make sure that you're sharing our link. You're able to tag your friends even as we proceed from where we left last time. And I know this evening will be great. So karibuni sana. Let us know where you're watching us from. Let us know how the video is. Let us know how the sound is. And we totally appreciate that effort and that effort and support that you're giving us. Picking from where we left last week, we had a brilliant, amazing discussion when we were discussing about personalities. And today we are continuing from where we left, because last week we talked about two traits, or two personality, or two temperaments, the cholerics and the phlegmatics, and we looked at their strength, their weakness, some of the careers that they can be able to pursue, and we're picking from there. So we'll be able to finish the remaining two, and then from there we're going to see. There is a good question that came. Could you be having the four personalities or the four traits, and how do they come to play along in your life? So we'll see how we're going to answer that question, and also see how we can be able to acquire some traits so that we can be able to survive different environments and different situations, because life is not constant. Life keeps changing, and responsibility keep changing. There is responsibility coming into your life that require a more stronger personality. So that's what we'll be pushing on this evening. And picking from where we stopped, we're going to go to the third temperament, or the third trait, and that is the sanguines. And when we talk about the sanguines, this trait or this personality, it's an extrovert personality. So it's outspoken. They thrive. Among people, within people, and they have a very strong personality in terms of making friends. So we're looking at the sanguine and how they come out amidst people and amidst a gathering. How do you be able to single out someone, or a character in terms of a sanguine? Now, when we talk about sanguine, as I have said, they're extroverted, so they talk a lot. So we look at their strength, and then we look at their weakness, and then we'll see some of the careers they can be able to pursue. Now, when we talk about the sanguine, number one, they're very talkative. In terms of storytellers, actually they thrive. I always say this. For the sanguines, they can't be quiet for 5 minutes without talking. And when you see a sanguine quiet for 10-20 minutes, then there is a big problem. There is a big problem. So you realize when you're dealing with the sanguine, number one, there will be a lot of storytellers. So they're good storytellers. They are talkative. They have a lot of energy of talking, energy of doing things. So they have a lot of energy. Those people who will say a lot. They will say a lot. They will say a lot. So when you see this kind of people who probably they have a challenge with keeping quiet, probably in school, if you were to go back there, they were making the best noise makers, and the prefect would say times 100, times 200, because they find it so hard for them to keep quiet. So because their energy comes through talking, storytellers. So the other strength about them, they know how to make friends. These are people who will get into a conference probably in the morning, and by the time people are going for a tea break, sure, he have made 5 or 10 friends, and they know even where they come from. So they have an easy way of mingling with people. They have an easy way of communicating to people. There is an easy way of attracting people. I would say they have a charisma power within them. So they're able to attract people. They're able to make friends, and they're able to make sure that they can create humor. They always where they are. You'll miss them because they know how to make humor. They will make you feel fun. They thrive on those things. And that's how they are. So you'll get a sanguine among many people. Those people who, by the time, getting to town, they have gone into 3-4 corners. They know what is where, how is it, and all that manner of. And because they have a lot of energy, they have this charisma of making friends. They have this they're very cheerful. They're storytellers. And then they're very, they're very bold. They're very bold. To them, and actually I always say this, one of the thing they carry, they don't get ashamed. They don't get ashamed. You know, these are the people who have this boldness. They'll come probably in church, and that, you know, instead of sitting, they come a bit late. Then instead of sitting behind there, they will walk. They will walk, and they have no problem, you know, creating this attention. Also, they love attention, public attention. So they will walk, you know, take the whole show and making sure that everybody have to recognize that a sanguine was in the church, a sanguine came late, a sanguine was dressed in this color, and that's how they thrive. So they thrive in those things where probably they have to make a name for themselves in the public, and they don't struggle because, number one, we say they're not shameful, they're not timid, they have that a strong persona out there. Then because they're able to make friends, they have a lot of energy, they're cheerful, so people will always want to be surrounded by people. These are families where you'll go and you'll find every day you'll get a visitor. There is no any single day you'll find there is no visitor. They're the people in their office. You'll get people coming to camp into their office. Because there is a way you want to see so and so, how are they doing? You'll go there bored, they will cheer you up, and that's how they thrive. So they're very energetic. If mama in the morning will wake up, when the rest before they wake up, amefua nguo, 3 lines, they are there, breakfast is it's ready, and they have an energy. They are, you know, they are swift. In other words, they are swift of doing things, so they will do things very well. And I say this, most of the time when you're a leader and probably you want someone to do things very fast, a sanguine will do things very fast. But what will happen is, one of their weakness, they don't have a perfection, eye unto it. So in a lot of the things they will do, there'll be a lot of mess. So you have to keep following them, because one of their weakness, they don't know how to perfect things. So you'll get most of the time, they'll do things haphazard. They'll never finish. They will start all what they need to do, but they will never finish. Actually, one of the biggest challenge with the sanguines, they don't have a finishing power. So you have to keep encouraging them. They can start 10 businesses, but none will thrive. So they need someone to, to tell them, no, you need to scale down, hold on one thing. So most of the time when you find they'll do a lot of things because they have a lot of energy, they will have a lot of friends, but they don't know how to maintain friendship. So today, they keep changing a lot of things. And at that particular moment, you'll find they will lose a lot of friends, they will lose a lot of investment, they will lose a lot of money, they will lose a lot of time. They're in one relationship, 2 months, because they're also moody. They get moody. They can talk a lot. Then from nowhere, they go silent. What's wrong? Nothing. Are you okay? Yes. So they shift their mood swing. It's actually out of the 4. Their mood swing is very high. So you'll get a sanguine, in a relationship, they are good, communicating, everything is okay. Along the way, they get bored. Then they're trying something new. Along the way, then what they had started, they see something new, then they want to change it. And that's how they are. They are not stable, in another word. They are not stable in terms of following one thing until to the end. They don't have within them the persistent and consistent. That's one of the biggest challenge. They're the kids in school. You'll find the 5 subject homework they were given. They started, but they never finished. So their biggest problem is not starting, is to finish. That's another weakness. So just to make it clear, I've said their strength is they're talkative. They're very good in terms of energetic and doing a lot of things. They're cheerful, and they're very caring. And then they're people who have ability to forgive and forget. Sanguines don't carry grudge. You will mess up today in the morning, and by the time you're having lunch, that is done. So they don't know how to carry grudge. They forget and they forgive and forget and move on. Actually, they can make jokes out of it. So they have that ability to make, to make a big thing very small, and they can laugh, through that, and at the end of the day will be done. So that's, and then their weakness, I've said, weakness number 1 for them, they get bored very easily. They have issues to do with the mood swing. So you cannot depend on them. You cannot depend on them. And I always say this, most of the time when it's a very critical assignment that need to be done, don't give a sanguine, because you might get frustrated. So because most of the time they don't they don't parade themselves as serious people. They would want those areas where there are jokes, a lot of fun. You'll get into a meeting and you're discussing a serious agenda, and they're waiting at that place where when they get bored and they're going to make fun, and they're like probably in the midst of developing a near budget, and you're trying to add up number and nothing is adding, and then from nowhere a sanguine just pop in and say, when are we going for a team building? And you're wondering, we are talking about a budget, we are trying to balance the figures, you're talking about when you're going to have a team building and fun. That's a whole thing. So when you have a sanguine, most of the time they'll try to get when people are serious, and they'll pop in and throw something. That's how they are, because they thrive in fun, and we're going to see some of the careers that they do, and they do very well. So I've said mood swing, and then they're not able to follow one task until to the end. So they're not that persistent and consistent. So you need to keep reminding them. You need to scale them down to one or two given areas until they perfect it to the end. So you need to make sure you're monitoring. A lot of monitoring it's required when you give a sanguine an assignment. And among a lot of sanguines, finishing assignment is a challenge. The other weakness about them, they're disorganized. They're disorganized in a way. You'll get into their house, everything is everywhere. And they have no problem. They will get into the kitchen, and before they clear the mess, they are cooking. Once the food is ready, that's when they're looking for plates. They'll wash clothes and put them into their bed, and they're trying to push them. You'll get into their office, and papers are everywhere, books are everywhere. You can give them a paper today in the evening, and by tomorrow morning when you're coming to the office and you're asking them, where did you keep that paper? They can't even remember. They're a bit messy in their working place. They're the people who will do and most of the time you'll find when it comes to the organization, they're not they're not organized. They'll do things here everywhere. So that is one of their challenge. They're not organized in a manner. They're not that disciplined. And actually most of the time I say this, most of the sanguine, when it comes to their discipline issues, they have a challenge with a loose tongue. Because they talk a lot, and you see, when you talk a lot, there are chances of probably saying what is wrong. And that is what happened with the sanguine. So when you have a sanguine, you have to keep making sure, where do I position them in the place of talking? Have find an organization where you have given a sanguine a public relation office, or probably to become to lead in an event, and by the time that event is over, probably I have saying some few words there, but the good thing is they're able to correct themselves back, and they can correct their mistake as long as they're going on. So that is one of the things about the sanguine. So when you have a sanguine, I've said this, you'll get they talk a lot. They have a lot of energy. On the other hand, they're very disorganized in a manner. They're not able to follow one task to the end. Sometimes they get very moody. You're in a good communication. From nowhere they go mum. Then probably when they have lost you, and then they come back, they have a challenge of disappearing and appearing. They'll disappear, then a month will appear, and the whole thing. And they love excitement. They are party people. They thrive in party, they thrive in fun. They're the people who are always on vacation. To them, you might find a sanguine saving to go for a vacation, but you'll find it so hard for a sanguine to save and buy a plot. They love things that will excite them, will make them fun, they'll feel good, and that's how they are. So if you have a friend and you're a sanguine there, then you can see how you can tailor-made and you can work out, surrounding your weakness. Then from there we go to the last personality, and that is the Melan. And before I get to the Melan, let me see those who have checked in. Thank you, Janet Njoroge. Thank you, Mboimboro, for coming in. Shaluta, thank you. God bless you. I can see Sarah Mwarewa Wanyoro. That is, a sister from our home. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming in. Thank you, Gadagu Junior. Thank you, and I hope you're well. Mwangi, thank you. Mwangi Immaculate, Karibu Sana. And then I can see we also have John, and the rest. So thank you. I also want to recognize those who are watching us through the YouTube. Kindly, you can drop a text there in our YouTube, and then we'll be able to appreciate what you're doing even from our YouTube channel. Now, when we talk about the melancholy or the melancholic, these are extremely introverted. They are quiet people, very quiet. Actually, among the four, if I was to grade them, I'll say sanguine is number one, talkative, then followed by the cholerics, then number three is phlegmatic, and the melan are the most quiet people. They're the most quiet people. But they're very talented, and we're going to look at their strength. So they're very quiet. They don't talk. They talk when it's necessary. Do you know, they are not going to give you a lot of details. They're not going to give you a lot of story. How was your day? Good. How have you been? Well. Do you know, one word should make sure. If you have a sanguine and melan, if you ask a sanguine, how was your day? They're going to give you details per hour, per every place they went. But when you ask a melan, how was your day? Good. So when you have these two, it's contrast of each other. It's a direct opposite of each other. So that is how it happened. So we look at the melan, and I have said, number one, they are very introverted. They are very quiet. What are their strengths? One of the biggest strengths about melan, they are very organized. They are very organized. Everything has to be where it's supposed to be. In their office, papers are either filed based on year, based on department, or based very organized. When you get into their wardrobe, everything, shirts, suits, if they are skirt, everything is organized. When you get into their kitchen, there are places for plates, for spoon, for cups. You know, it's not everything everywhere. They are very organized. Even their dressing, they are very organized. They don't color clash. They are able to make sure that this color blend with this. Very organized. They are very organized. Everything, even in their work, even in their delivery, everything has to be organized in a manner. And they get irritated when you do, things in a haphazard manner. So when you have a melan, one thing will stand out. It is organization. Very organized. Everything is well placed where it's supposed to be. So they are very organized. They are very disciplined. They are very disciplined. Because if you're organized, that means you're disciplined. So they're very disciplined. And because they don't talk a lot, it's very hard for them to hurt you. It's very hard for them to hurt you. And if they hurt you, they'll take the blame very fast. So they will make sure, because they don't have a lot of words to explain themselves. So what they try to do is to avoid to do something probably might end up working against them. So I say they're very organized. They're very disciplined in terms of how they do their things. They'll meet their deadline. They'll make sure they're able to do what's supposed to be done at the right time in the right place. And I always say this, why they do a lot of these things is because they want to make sure they're not in the wrong side of the law. They don't want to find themselves where they need to explain, because they are so mean with words. So once you have these kind of people, they'll always try to do what they're supposed to do and the best they can, so that they're able to run away from the things. So once they are organized, then they're disciplined, and then they are talented. They're talented. Most of the time when you get a melan, anything they tend to do, they do it with perfection. Actually, they are perfectionists. Everything has to be done well, excellent. They have no place of accommodating mediocrity. So they are actually the four temperament. They're the people who want everything to be done well. They cannot allow mess anywhere, because they're perfect in what they do. If they become designers, their design has to stand out. If they are salonists, when they pleat that hair, you look at it and you're like, somebody did it. And I always say this, why they're so much gifted in terms of what they do, in terms of talent and what they can do, handwork, because their product do the talking. Because remember, they have few words, so they have to do something excellent, so that whatever they're going to produce, everybody will be like, who did this? Who did this work? So they're so much talented. They're so much perfect in what they do. So at the end of the day, by the time they are done, you'll feel something is well and perfectly done. So that is the melan. The other strength about them, they're very pretty and neat. They're very neat. They're clean. They are clean. They are people who, they have to make sure where they are no mess in terms of getting to their house. Have you gotten to someone's house? It's a one room, but everything is well organized. Kabisa. You'll get to someone who have 5 bedroom and all rooms are messed up. Everything in the bed, there is everything. There are people who cannot leave bed before they make it. I know the people I'm talking to, and by the way, they left in the morning, their bed is still waiting. But the Milan, they have to make sure they are neat and tidy. No mess. Even in the way they dress, even the way they walk, even the way they there are people who will eat and they will remove the plate from the table. There are people who will eat and leave the plates there and walk. They have no problem. That's not a Milan, and they get pissed off when they find you can't do those small things to show how neat you are. So they are very neat in what they do. They make sure that they have done what they're supposed to do. They make sure they'll go an extra mile and make sure there's a lot of order in what they do. Order is actually what thrives them. They have nice mind of order, but because they are the human beings, they have their own weakness. And weakness number one, which really most of the time, they have a low self-esteem. They have issues with low self-esteem. They don't feel, comfortable about themselves. They don't feel like they are worth like other people. And probably because of this time, they struggle explaining the people, or rather, they struggle to explain who they are and what they can do. And among that place, probably they get to a place of not being understood, and that most of the time affects their place of self-esteem. So when you have a Milan, most of the time they will suffer that place of their self-esteem. It doesn't come out that strong. It's not like a sanguine. Sanguine, they have no issues to do with the self-esteem, but a Milan, most of the time they will fall back. They will probably doubt themselves before they do it. So you need to keep encouraging them. You need to keep motivating them. If you have a Milan, someone who are very quiet and they don't talk a lot, most of the time they need someone to keep motivating them. They need someone to keep encouraging them. They need someone to keep checking on them. So that's the whole thing. Another weakness about them, when you have a Milan, most of the time they detach. You feel they are far away. So you have to keep checking on them. You have to keep looking at them. And why? Because they cannot sustain a communication. So most of the time when you communicate with the Milan, it tends to be one-sided. Because you see, you are starting a conversation. Milan, most of the time, they never start a conversation. So when you start a conversation with the Milan, you have to keep it. Along the way, when you get tired, then they tend to withdraw. And this has been one of the biggest challenge when it comes to Milan. So when you have a Milan, you need to keep on checking on them because most of the time they're going to detach. You look even in the family, they're that quiet sister who will never check on you. They will never call you. They keep waiting. You can stay for 2 years until you call them. They're that member in your church who will come after service, they walk out, they don't mingle with people, they don't share, and that. So you have to make sure, in a way, how do you keep, checking on them? How do you keep looking at them so that you can move along with them? So they have a challenge of be feeling detached, and they feel most of the time they are not able to keep up with other people. There's a challenge with them. They're not able to keep, or rather they're not able to mingle well in public. So when they in a place where they are given an opportunity to be in public, they'll choose to be otherwise. They choose not to be there. They are not people who are going to do lead a service, lead an event. Them giving a chance to talk to 100 people, it is enough punishment. It's an enough punishment. I remember there is a friend of mine who was given, a moment to, say hi. And this is an educated and elite person. And was given, come and dress this congregation for only 10 minutes. And within 2 minutes, he has done whatever he was to say. And he was like, what am I going to do with the rest of 8 minutes? So they have a challenge with the public. They're not able, their public image, it's not that strong. They can't come out strong in the midst of people. So if you are to gauge their strength by how well they're able to communicate, how well they're able to address audience, then you'll find most of the time Milan are not able. They're not able. So, and I always say this, when you're a leader, whether you're doing a business and then you realize you have a Milan, please don't give them them that space where they'll be, they will be shining, or rather their place where they're in the spotlight. They're not able to maintain it. They're not able to maintain it. They'll choose to work behind the scene, behind the camera, and they'll do perfectly job. They'll make sure they have done it well. So those are some of the weakness they have, and they have said, so when you get into a relationship with these people and you have a Melan, you have to bear the burden of checking on them, communicating on them, encouraging them. Some of the time they will have the withdrawn syndrome, and they don't want to be with people, and they want to do whatever they do. So when you are starting this journey, then you have to make sure most of the time you are able to move on. Then another weakness they have a challenge in communication, a total challenge of communication, because one, they'll never give you detail. When they're required to give details, they have a challenge with giving details. And sometimes when you keep asking a lot of questions, they get irritated and they withdraw and they block. So most of the time when you have a Melan and you are this kind of a sanguine, probably when you have a sanguine and Melan and they're working together, most of the time you'll find a sanguine will keep hurting a Melan. Why? Because a sanguine want to ask question, want to get details, and a Melan, they have a challenge with giving details. When I tell you my day was good, then you take it was good. You can imagine having a Melan who is probably a husband, and then a wife is a sanguine, and the husband come in the evening and the wife is asking, how was your day? Good. And the wife is like, can you give me details? And you know women with details. So unless you understand this personality, you'll find this husband is like, you're nagging. I don't understand. But you see, a sanguine have the right to ask, what do you mean by good? Can you try to explain this good? How good was it? Which part was good? But to them, when they tell you it's good, please take it as was good, and that is done. So they have a challenge with communication, and they challenge the place of giving details. So when you understand how to deal with them, you'll know how do you psych them so up, because they're a bit locked. It's very hard to understand a Melan. It's very hard to understand, because you see, if you don't communicate, we might not understand what is happening with your life. And that's why I said, when they're detached, they have a low esteem, and then probably they have an issue with communication. Then you'll get most of the time, there people have, they get into stress, depression, but you can't know, because why? You just assume that's how they are. So you need to be very keen dealing with a Melan. We can lose a Melan very easily, thinking that they're okay and they're not okay. So you have to study this personality so that you know when they behave this, what could be a challenge, what could be the issue, so that you can be able to get into their space safely and understand them and help them. I hope I'm clear on that. And most of the time when we don't study people, we don't know how to deal with them. And sometimes these people could be hurting, but we don't know how to deal with them, because we have never been keen to study their personality and know where to position them. Now, I didn't give examples of careers that sanguine can be able to pursue. They are very good they'll do very good in journalism. Media job, but not production. Production give a Melan. But news reporters, news anchors, they will be amazing people where they will talk. Public relation office, PR offices, they'll do very well. Marketers, sellers, a salesperson, they'll do very well. A sanguine will sell everything, and will sell even you, and you can. They have a swift tongue, they have a crafty tongue, they have words, they have plenty of words. They don't struggle convincing people, they don't struggle standing before people. Do very well in those kind of jobs. Good marketers, very good salespeople, media, they'll be demeanor before people. You don't want to listen to them. They will do very well. Hard. Give them any job that is not much requiring of public. Authorship, they do very in terms of writing books. Why? Because Melan are good thinkers, and because they don't communicate well, what they do, they communicate through writing. So they will do very good journals, good books. If you look at any book written by a Melan, you'll be able to feel there is a thorough work that has been done. So they do a lot of good in terms of writing. Authorship, they will do very well. They are very good in terms of accounts. because they'll sit down and be able to follow through the whole process of accounting, and they're able to make sure, because they are perfect. They have a touch of perfectionist. So because they're perfectionist, and they're doing whatever they're doing, they'll make sure there are no errors. Get a sanguine to do mathematics and balance sheet and those, closing and balance sheet, budgeting and everything, and they'll be like, sometimes you get a lot of mess. Why? Because they get tired, and in between there, the concentration span of a sanguine is not of a melan. So a melan will do very well in those technical that require a lot of mind engagement. They do amazing job. Good doctors in terms of neurosurgeons, those are specialists. They'll do very well, because they're able to follow one thing for a whole hour. For 2 hours, they can sit down and do something for 2 hours without getting tired. A sanguine sitting down for 30 minutes, it's punishment. They want 30 minutes, and a pigaraundi. These are people who can never settle in an office for 30 minutes because they have that energy. For Milan, they'll sit down for 2 hours. There are people who will walk into their office and they'll stay there until 5, and they're comfortable and they're okay. By that time, a sanguine amechapa around kama kumi. And because we have different personality, then we are able to understand how to deal with them. Now, this is what happened when we have the 4. If we start with what we started last week, the cholerics are called the doers. Then phlegmatics are watchers. Sanguines are talkers. And then melan are thinkers. So that means in an organization in life, we need someone to think for those ideas. So melan, when they think for those ideas, they come up with nice ideas, but they're not able to communicate well. So a sanguine will pick the melan idea and communicate it very well. Once they communicate it very well, then sanguines are not able to do it. So what will happen is choleric will take what sanguine had given as an idea, and they're going to implement it. As they're implementing it, the phlegmatics, they watch where they could be pitfalls, where they could be negatives. So they watch and they communicate. If you do this, we may not get the result. Let me give a very example. Let's talk of an organization, they're planning to do a fund drive or a fund drive, and they're looking on how to go about it. In a meeting, the melan will come up with the best idea on how we are going to actualize the idea of doing the fund drive. How are we going to get those the guests to bring money? What merchandise can we sell? They'll come up with those good ideas, but they're not going to communicate so very well. So the sanguine will take the idea and is going to run with the idea, and that particular moment, the sanguine will be the MC. Most of the time, the MC, they're able to ask people money, but probably the whole of that fund drive, they never gave even a coin. So at that particular moment, the choleric will take the idea, and they're going to make sure that the merchandise is bought, the guests who are supposed to be approached, they have been approached, cards that need to be printed have been printed. Then the phlegmatic will be watching where are the errors could come. You see, it's a working it's connection of the 4. So the 4 personality, there is no which one is better than the other. All of them are equally important. All of them, they are equally need of each other. So in the whole place of working together, we need the 4 personality. What happened is, if a sanguine needs to know their place, when we are planning to do anything, sanguine will wait when people need to be communicated to. They will do a nice communication. When action need to be done, make sure the cholerics are there. You're going to get results. But the place where we need to have excellent and strategic plans, the melan will sit down and come with the best. Then the phlegmatic, their work will be seeing where are the pitfalls that we can fall. And at the end of the day, you find we have gotten the result because we have worked as a team. Now, I want to repeat what I said last week, that everybody carries the 4 personalities. You carry the 4 traits. One, which is you, which is the dominant. Then the 3 is the recessive. So they're recessive, why? Because if you're choleric and you have a friend who is sanguine, you can along the way be able to move. You can be able to accommodate them because there is something in you that is equal to them. So you'll feel comfortable because you can rhyme. But it's not for long. That's why you get to a place and you feel like, I cannot relate on this. It is killing who I am. But you had stayed there for a while, but you felt, no, I'm done. Because your personality now is telling you, I'm tired of being pressed and I need to dominate. That's why it's called the dominant. You need to dominate. That's a place where I always say self-identity is very important. Knowing your traits is very important. Why? Because you know the areas of career, the careers you can pursue. You know the business you can do. You cannot be a melancholic, and you are doing a business where you do a lot of convincing customers. My friend, you'll not. You cannot be a Melan and you want to sell land, plots. How are you going to convince in 120, 200 companies and they're selling plot in the same vicinity? You need to get someone who have their words right. A Melan will tell you, I'm selling a plot. Done. So it is you to ask how much. Then they'll tell you 200. Where? Matu. Are we together? But when you have a sanguine probably selling the same product, will give you details in one sentence. We are selling plot in Matu at 200. We are the best. We are located in the right place. We have water. We have electricity. They're not mean with the word. So when you realize your personality, you'll be able to know what you can pursue without struggling. I find a lot of people who are good, but they're in the wrong place. I find people with strong personality, but they are in the wrong place. So that personality cannot help them. So when we sit here and help you to realize your trait, it's helping you to know where you can position yourself. Even for leaders, you'll be able to know how do you tap on these 4 personalities. Where do you position them? I have always said this to the leaders. When you have a sanguine and you need to communicate an idea that require a lot of convincing, give that idea to a sanguine. A sanguine will make sure everybody knows that whole thing. And they will make sure, because of their, they're able to attract and create friendship. That ability will help them to communicate on a friendship base. So by the time the leader you are introducing the whole thing, the sanguine has created a favorable ground for you. The moment you know something needs to be done urgently and results are required urgently, don't give a sanguine, give it to a choleric. You'll get result, within the given time. The place where there is a lot of analytics need to be done, a lot of consideration need to be done, give a Melan. Most of the time they'll make the best decision. So you need to know as a leader, where do you position people? I find leaders positioning people in the wrong place and they become troublesome. And then you start saying, I don't understand this person. You cannot understand this person because you have placed them in the wrong place. So when you place them in the right place, and it is within you to know where to place them. It is you to know, how do I deal with these people so that I can tap the best out of what they have. So I hope I'm clear. The purpose of understanding, and I have always said this, when you realize your character, when you realize your personality, you keep building on it. You keep discovering much about it. And there is nothing sweet like self-learn. You become a school where you're teaching yourself and you're learning much about yourself. You'll enjoy life because you'll get to different phases of your life with a different idea of yourself and with a different strength that you never know that you could do. Now, how do we deal with these personalities so that they don't become too extreme? Because when they become too extreme, they start affecting the people you're dealing with. How do we moderate our personalities? That at the end of the day, I'm a sanguine, I'm talkative. How can I moderate it? At the end of the day, I'm able to live with the other 3 and they're not feeling uncomfortable with me. Now, 3 or 2 things that shapes our personality. Number 1 is the environment. Your environment will always determine how strong or how weak your trait will be. In this sense, if you're a choleric and you subject yourself in an environment where there's a lot of sanguines, what happens is you start acquiring some of traits so that you survive with the sanguine. As you're surviving with them, then what happens is you're suppressing your personality. And most of the time I have heard people talk about identity crisis. Identity crisis comes when you're not sure on where you're supposed to be. You're not sure on what is affecting you and how to deal with it. So the environment you expose yourself is very important. I always say this: when you know you're choleric, it's very important to know other cholerics that you can move along with, because by rubbing shoulders with them, you strengthen each other trait. If probably cholerics are born leaders, they're good leaders. So when you have other cholerics who are good leaders, they strengthen that personality and become strong into it. So one place of making your personality is strong and is coming out clear without confusion is creating a conducive environment for yourself. And I said environment is not just places. Environment will do with minds, will do with people, will do with exposure. We'll do a lot of study to understand what kind of environment are you exposing your mind so that your personality can grow. Get into internet and learn how do cholerics grow, how do sanguine deals with their weakness. You'll get to understand it. Very important. So environment is one place where you can shape and strengthen your personality, and never assume the place of environment. I've said in my previous show, environment will build you, environment will kill you. The same thing will happen with your trait or with your temperament. When you don't expose yourself into the right environment that can enhance the growth, can enhance your personality, what happens is you'll start having identity crisis. And most of the time you'll know Miss Juang inakuwaga wapi. I think you have heard that cliche for so long. I don't know where I fit. I don't know who I rhyme with. I don't know who is good for me. That itself, it tells you you have not exposed yourself to the right environment that can show you who you are and the people you can deal with without struggling. So environment is very important. Let me check what you are saying before even I talk about the other thing. Isaac, Reverend Isaac, also my namesake. Rachel, thank you for coming. Hey, today we have new members, and we appreciate for you coming in. Nelly Njeri, thank you. Simon, my dad, thank you for coming in, and God bless you. This is amazing. I hope you guys are sharing this link. Make sure you are you're copying this link and and sharing, so that we keep reaching to many people as we can. So I was talking about the environment. So environment is very important in terms of enhancing you are, enhancing those traits that you have, and also it is also very important on exposing the areas where you are weak, so that you start dealing with them. I always say this: unless you expose yourself to the things you can do and the things you cannot do, you'll never know your strength and your capability. So environment is very important. Number two, it is responsibility. When you find in the ladders of life, as you grow, as more responsibilities coming on your hand, it tones you down. For example, let me give an example, because I know I have quite a number of reverends listening to me. If you're a reverend and a sanguine, automatically you have to watch your words, because the office that has the responsibility that you have been bestowed to you, they have been given to you, they have to require you to watch your words, because you can mess big time. So the responsibility that has been given to you, the responsibility that you have, will shape automatically your personality. There are things you cannot do, but you used to do them. If you are not a leader and you're elected a leader, you cannot behave the way you're behaving. If you're a sanguine who is not a leader and a sanguine who is a leader, they're not going to behave the same. They cannot talk the same. The one who is a leader, automatically, because they're conscious, they're aware of the position they hold, and anything they will say, it will be taken as the truth. So that means they have to watch what they say. So in other words, they start now, tightening their loose tongue, so that everything they will say has to be said rightly and in the right manner. So the responsibility you find on your hands will dictate how your personality will come out, how to be shaped, how to be sharpened. I always say this: responsibility comes to shape and sharpen our personality. If today probably you are you are single, and then you graduate to a place of marriage, it means if you used to go for for party every weekend, you start finding the responsibility has you have engaged yourself into it is it's tailoring you to a place whereby that there are things you start dropping and their character you start acquiring so that you sustain that responsibility. So responsibility, what happened is it shows you to it come to open your your capacity to acquire new traits or new character that can sustain you to that responsibility you have been given. I find CEOs in companies who probably have a challenge of getting to work late, but the moment you get into that office, you have to be there early, whether you're going to struggle. But at the end of the day, you struggle the first month, the second month you acquire that character. By the time you're talking about the fourth month, it is within you. You start feeling like, now I'm operating in things. But the moment that responsibility is over, there are chances you might find yourself tripping back to where you are. Why? Because you are sustaining things because of a given, you are conscious there is something that people are expecting me to do. So a responsibility helps you to acquire a personality you didn't have so that you sustain that work. I say this, whatever you don't have, willingly you can acquire it. You can acquire it. And the best place of acquiring that trait you don't have, it is the place of responsibility. Responsibility will make it easy for you, will tell your mind it is possible to acquire a trait of being quiet for 2 hours in a meeting because it demands you to be quiet in that meeting. It helps you if you're not good time manager, and probably whatever the responsibility you have been given, it's matter of life and death. I know it will be very hard, but consciously you push yourself to making sure you are within the parameter of doing what is right. I hope I'm clear. And so even as you sit down to evaluate yourself, I know with the first hearing of these, you might not be able to place yourself at the right personality or temperament, but giving yourself an ear to study yourself, an ear to look at your strength, an ear to look at your weakness, an ear to see what you can do without struggle, an ear of the people that you can mingle with, an ear, when you walk that journey, the more you are walking that journey, the more it becomes clearer for you. The more it becomes more convincing. This is who I am. This is what I can do. This is my personality. This is my trait. So it is not a one thing. I always say this, self-discovery is not an event. It is a process. You have to keep growing yourself. You have to keep being in touch with yourself. You must keep exposing yourself to different environments so that you know what you can do. You need to get yourself into different responsibility so that you know the things you can do with ease, the things that you're struggling. Why you struggle is because that is not your area of strength. Actually, why we struggle is because we know that is not our area of our strength, because you never struggle in your area of strength. Now, when you realize that, yes, I'm struggling here, but I don't have I don't have an option of living. So what you do, you start now telling yourself, I need to acquire strength. I need to acquire a trait that will help me not to struggle as much I'm supposed to struggle to do what I'm supposed to do. I hope I'm clear that responsibility will shape your personality. That's what I always say. Look at, the birds of the same feather flew together. That's what I always tell people. If you know your responsibility, get other like-minded people. They will strengthen your personality. If you're a father and your best friends are young boys, who don't have a family, most of the time they'll never help you to be more responsible. They'll only help you to be very irresponsible because they'll never budget of unga. In your salary, you're talking about unga. So that's why I say you must get people who are in the same mind. In my age, I cannot move with men of 60 years who they are selling their girls and probably they are going to get, girls for their sons. If I start working with that, I'll automatically be old and I'll not relate with my people at this age. So you must know the people I'm working with, what is our common denominator. Because that common denominator, it stamps who you are and what you can do well. And that was the purpose of discussing the personality traits this evening. So it's my joy, it's my desire that all of us are well equipped in what we're supposed to do. Give yourself some few weeks to study and to reflect and see where you are. I'm telling you, stop struggling. I've seen people struggling either because of the jobs they are doing, either because of the offices they are serving, either because they don't know who they are. And the moment you get to know who you are, more and more, you're more happier, you're more joyful, you feel good about yourself, your self-esteem is up there, your self-awareness is up there, your identity is up there, and you feel more comfortable with yourself. So I pray that tonight, even as we are finishing these two part 1 and part 2 of personality, you'll be able to take that time and open that page of study yourself. I always say this: the most interesting book you can ever read, it is your chapters, it is your book, it is your life. It is the most interesting, it is the most enjoyable, and you're the only person who can understand how sweet is it. So make sure that even as we're coming to the end of this show, you'll be able to sit down and see, how can I build myself better? How can I be the best version of myself? So thank you so much, guys, for that time, for letting us. Thank you, Maggie Mago. Thank you so much. Hey, Mago, thank you. Tupatana nyuma ya hema. That was my university mate. So thank you so much, and God bless you for coming in from where you are. From the Well Show, we want to say thank you for giving us an opportunity to be an impact into your life, to be a blessing into your life. And we always appreciate everyone who take their time, their bundles, to sit down and listen to us, to share, to comment. May God bless you. You are because I am, and I am because you are. Let's make sure you are walking this journey of building the Well Show. We are trusting God to make it better. We are trusting God to expand with your help and the help of God. And I know it is possible. From us to you, thank you so much. God bless you. Looking forward to see you next week. Same place, same time, same venue, as we talk more about leadership. So from us to you, shalom, shalom, and God bless you.